Shalom, I hope you're doing well. I hope everything's fine for you. I wanted to speak about something that I notice in the world, and it's not only in the spiritual but also the secular arena. Um, which I guess is where people focus on more elusive things, secular being. And it is, I guess, the dichotomies, with the gender roles of one where I guess the males are in one position and the women are in another. But this is what I see, and I think it's also a product of a few things. Why it is that way. A few things being affirmed that we can see. I mean, you could look on anywhere on social media, right? And I kind of my heart goes kind of out to women, but then again, in a way, I don't feel wrong or bad for um having this uh view. It's kind of like an alignment or a realization, and you'll see it, right? But we also have to progress and do better. But the content of what I want to make. Um, the men are in one way pushing but let me go back to the women, right? A lot of the women um will talk about a few feelings of demoralization or ways that they feel stifled, um I guess, maybe viewed as sexually destitute in society, if you know what I mean, right? Seeing that their value is tied to illusory or sexual ideation, right? Or things of that nature, or in different ways. And then let me get to the men, right? What I see with the men is that there are a lot of men in current civilization, and I want to more talk about like and focus on and give congratulations to people in more of a spiritual or in an alignment way, because I think for today it is quite easy for a lot of people in a political or um church mindset to kind of they'll talk about morals or stoicism. That's easier now, but we see that a lot of that comes with a lot of um dichotomy, bias, um undertones of kind of judgment and things like that. I don't want to focus on that. That type of stuff that's fueled by certain types of spirits, and um people say, okay, this is church and stuff like that, but people also need to know that there are different spirits and judgments and also biases within that, whether you want to call it demonic or not. I think when you are judging and you are um bantering someone and beating someone with your words and with your policies and with your governments, and also aligning that with religion, that is satanic in its nature. It may not be full on, imagery of that, but we need to know the dichotomy of spirit, right, of which that is. And we see a lot of people aligning their quote unquote church and that with politics. I didn't want to call it religion because that isn't true religion, right? That judgment and analysis um, and damaging people with words and policies, right? Um, but there are people in there. There's a massive amount of men that that talk about morality, stoicism, and being aligned with uh, with I guess treating the vessel or being on a more aligned place of where you put your attention, right? Um, and staying away from lust or sexual immorality. I think people still need to go deeper with their convictions about what they talk about, right? A lot of people will be like, "Oh, you have to stay moral," right? They get on this retaining of seed, right, to attract a spouse, right? How and I'm using the strict words, but how demonic is that to talk about you're doing semen retention to attract a partner. Um, I mean, just so what you can more appropriately, release or get sexual immoral gratification, right? Just because you're being stoic, right? And um, I'm gonna get to the women in a little bit, but you also even see it in the stoic segment too of um of even YouTube, right? I call this hijack things, right? Things that are once used for moral things. It is hijacked by these kind of psyop energies, and people have this. Uh, they try to say that they're you know greater than thou, but they're still dealing with that satanic, these spirits, right? Um, that are immoral, whatever they may be. They're in the Stoicism, and they're in the church, right? Christianity. People don't like to talk about that, but I mean, and I don't think it's everyone within Christianity, um, right? But that's kind of a different conversation. Um, right. To say that I guess in the United States that is the most prevalent, or people see that as the kind of that's the path of saving. It's kind of sad to see where that has gone, with how it's so embedded within politics and strayed from the Enlightenment, and even to say it's it's its format or predecessor being Judaism, right? You would not have the church or Christianity without Judaism. To see how people have um, hated and um, uh, and mocked Judaism within the past years, um, right? Uh, within every dichotomy, or within every um you know every group has kind of gone against Judaism, I guess. And that's a different conversation, but to be honest, it's not even when people talk, I guess, condemning Israel. I mean, you also have to realize it's not just it's not only the country, it's the religion. People highly associate um, Judaism with Israel, right? And we all see, and it's just shame to see, I guess, I mean, any political, I religious um, education or I mean, political, whatever you call it, people into that to just demoralize a religion or whatever. And I think it's more politics, that do that. People into that type of stuff. Um, Let me get back on course with what I was talking about. Um, it's bigger than that, right? Because we see dichotomies within where people within politics and church talk about, oh, you have to, I mean, they talk about the masculine, and the stoicism with that. With the stoicism, right? You can go on YouTube or even get into the people with the retention thing on YouTube. They put all of these immoral, lustful, um, you know, pictures on the video thumbnail, right? Um, you know, and a huge thing within this retaining of seed thing is they're doing it um, to I guess attract a woman, right? In a stoic way, right? Which is, I mean, you can see the spirit of that, right? You can see the real image of that. I'm okay. Um, but you can see there's a lot of males, you know, while the women talk about that there's so much demoralization of their of themselves in all these ways, a lot of men are I mean, I don't, a good amount of men, and it's not seen on TV, right? And if you're watching these things that are promoting women in the image, and whatever walk you're doing, don't look at that stuff, right? Whatever that might be, uh, whatever broadcast you're getting the TV from, Hulu, uh, Prime Video, Netflix, right? You see, they don't take accountability for these things. They don't take accountability for the rise and proliferation of STIs and STDs, parasites, sexual immorality. They don't, right? All of the culture of the eating that they promote. They don't talk about parasites being abundant, right? They don't talk about that, and that's really being a proliferation of why the mind is deteriorating and why the health is deteriorating, is because not only the food that people are eating, but the parasitic disease that comes from that, and all of the iconography and all of the sexual things that they do, right, and how it's boosting sexuality. They don't mention STDs. Not like it has left, but they don't speak about it, right? You have to believe that STDs have um, outrageously erupted, and they don't speak about that, right? They don't speak about a rise in common STDs, in common ones, right? I'm not talking about the their operation to put a uh, a homosexual flamboyant African American male in a HIV commercial. I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking about the common ones that people are probably getting and exchanging right now, right? And even then, they um, whatever that means to the health, right? You can even look on the public broadcast right now. They advertise and push a diet program that is healthier for pets than it is for humans, right? For dogs, this farmers market crap. They push that, and they talk about, and they've dialed down a little bit on the heaviness of what the message was, but probably a year or two ago, they explicitly said a healthier diet for the animal or the dog leads to a longer, happier life. They don't say that anymore, but I mean, they talk about it in a different way, right? But they don't talk about that for humans. They don't speak about deworming or whatever humans. They don't talk about that. in whatever fashion that might be, right? And I want, um, but then again, let me talk about the women, right? Um, it, I don't significantly feel bad for the women, right? Because um, uh, any platform of 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 content that we see, that is available around, we see a large population of women in lustful, sexually immoral profile and imagery, right? Wanting to talk about the demoralization or the proliferation of debauchery of their image and stuff like that. But they I mean, their 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 entirety of the community of the women have this immoral, lustful, sexually immoral image that they push. The rise in women posting images and sexual content online, whatever you want to call it, whatever sites that they have where that they do the subscription and stuff for the sexually immoral content, right? Um, and they want to make it seem like the men keep them down, but no, they keep themselves down. And they'll talk about certain things, or I mean, even in the I guess the more mindful or spiritual communities, right? You'll have women, they'll be giving their message, and they'll also be um, uh, scandally or illustriously dressed, right? And if you want to say something, they say they talk about this sense of like pride or sexual entitlement or whatever, and that's not what that is, right? You are deceived if you think um, that showing more of a lustful or image is freedom, right? No, you're just trying to express something um, of of the immoral image that you have, um, just because you feel that people are mocking it. That doesn't make you moral sexually. I mean, you're still pushing yourself um, as a sexually immoral, destitute woman, right? Um, so whatever energy that women have attached to, thinking that showing pornographic, uh, immoral, and sex work images online in whatever platform this is, the subscriptions, or even on whatever society, whatever, thinking that that is some type of power, you are deceived and pushing that image further. But I think for men, if there's men that are saying, okay, we need to um, be more honest, or in our conviction, have to actually be like, okay, if they say that, watch the content that you are consuming. You know, um, are you still listening to these audio, this music that talks about women in a certain way, or watching these things, or getting into these sexual relationships and stuff? We have to monitor that. But that's the message, right? Um, and I mean, you have to see it. You can see it in society. Uh, and the major picture I want to say on this is that I don't see women talk about the outstanding or the objective need for sexual morality and purity and righteousness and wholesome that we need in society. I don't hear them talk about that. I hear mainly women, I mean men talk about it, but I don't hear women talk about it. I hear them talk about how they feel um destitute or whatever, or looked down upon, but I don't see that. So that's the message. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great one. Shalom. Blessings.